من العريب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال كان حين كنت تأخذ بيد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فتدخل به حيث تأخذ.
وعنه أن أنس قال كانت أمة من إيماء أهل المدينة تأخذ بيد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فتنطلق به حيث شاءت. رواه البخاري. Also narrated in the authority of Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that a slave girl from among the slave girls of Medina would take the hand of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fatantaliqu, and she would walk with him wherever she wished. Rawahul Bukhari. Imam Bukhari narrates this particular riwayat. So what the hadith is saying, remember I told you that first step, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ahmadu wa nusalli ala Rasul Karim. The first step is when you come to a hadith, uh, you must see what the hadith is saying. And then the second step is, what do we understand from the hadith? So here the hadith is saying that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was such a simple person. He wasn't full of pretense. He didn't have a lot of takalluf, etc. That if somebody wanted to come and speak to him, even a simple person like a slave girl wanted to speak to him, she could take him, say, Maaf, like, how sometimes you want to speak to someone, say, Maaf, can I just have a few words with you, man? I want to speak something in private with you. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had so much simplicity. He had no pretense in him that even an ordinary, normally, like you can say, slave person, slave man, slave woman, etc. People that don't have so much rights, they don't have so much prestige and honor in, in society. People don't pay a lot of attention to them. But our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was such a simple person, no pretense in him, that even a simple slave could come and say, look, I need to speak to you. I've got this problem. I've got this problem with my master, whatever. So that is what I told you, the nafsul ibarat. Although some ulama, some shurah, they mention, they say this wasn't literal, but it was figurative. That means Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was such a simple person that if somebody even if a slave wanted to speak to him, they could come and speak to him. You understand what I'm saying? So we say in Arabic, Urdu, say, بفرض محال, if it was as such, right? Because the reason why ulama gives this explanation, say, which person would be brave enough to come, which slave girl would be brave enough and physically come and take Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and say, I want to speak to you. That is why some ulama have said that this refers to a slave girl who wasn't 100% mental. She had some type of deficiency in her intelligence. She used to speak, blurt out a lot of nonsensical stuff. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as simple as he was, he had the time to listen to everybody, to placate everyone, to comfort everybody. If you look at the next hadith, he speaks similar, or rather speaks about the same thing. He says, "Fi aqliha shay'un," that in her intelligence there was something. So here the Sharih is saying, the best, according to him, the best way to understand this hadith is to say that it was literal. It wasn't something which was figurative. It was literal. That she would actually come to speak to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And obviously, only reason why she was brave enough to do this was because her mind was not 100%. Other than that, Sahaba Ikram, they would be in awe of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They wouldn't be even have the courage to look straight into the face of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But because she had some deficiency in intelligence. That is why she was brave enough to speak to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right, read next one. You don't have anything on the scene. Are you sikaki, not? You got sakaki there. Sakaki, okay. I actually got sikaki, but okay, maybe you can check it. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Also on the authority of Hazrat Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, right, وعنه أن امرأة, that a woman كانت في عقلها شيء, that in her intelligence was something. Remember I told you the jar majrur can never be the ism, so it's في عقلها شيء. فقالت يا رسول الله, she said يا رسول الله إن لي إليك حاجة, and same reason why it's حاجة, because that is the ism of inna, right? Jar majrur can't be the ism. إن لي إليك حاجة, really for me, to you, that's a letter, or by you is some need. فقال يا أم فلان, oh mother of so and so. So it was among the Arabs, that's how they address a person. In Arabic it's called a kunya, by the title of the children. انظري انظري أي السكك شئتي, look which road you want where we can go and speak. حتى أقضي لك حاجتك, that I can go and I can fulfill your need, whatever your problem is, we can discuss it. فخلا معها في بعض الطرق. Then Nabi Sallallahu went with her alone in some of the roads. حتى فرغت من حاجتها, until she completed whatever she wanted to say and need to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. رواه مسلم. Imam Muslim narrates this particular riwayat. So I was telling you, same, this hadith is similar to the previous hadith, that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had so much time that even for a person who was mentally unstable, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would take out time to speak to her, see what she wants to say. And most of the time, when a person has a problem and they want to speak to you, more than you doing anything, they just want somebody to listen to. They just want somebody to sympathize with them. They just want somebody to say, oh, shame, you're going through such a difficult time, etc. So here in a shara is saying that such a person, normally people don't even want to come close to her. People don't want to even speak to her, etc., etc. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had the patience, he had the akhlaq to go and speak to her and listen to her and also comfort her. That is why in the previous books also, one of the titles that is given to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the comforter. Comforter, right? Right. Can you read the next one? You got ma'tabatin, eh? Right. Okay. Also narrating authority of Anas radiallahu ta'ala said, لم يكن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فاحشا, that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not fahish. Fuhush means like you can say uncouth. No, you speak, certain you speak in a uncouth, in a rude manner, right? لم يكن فاحشا ولا لآنا. La'an means to curse people, make bad dua the moment you are annoyed with somebody, then you make a dua with him. Wala sababan, neither would he verbally abuse people. كان يقول عند المعتبة, you would say at the time of annoyance, if somebody was irritated him or annoyed him, the most you say, Malahu, what is with this person? Tariba jabinuhu, may his forehead become soiled with sand. Or Rawahul Bukhari, Imam Bukhari narrates this particular riwayat. So this Tariba jabinuhu, literally it means that your head must be in the sand. Like you must fall down with your head in the sand. So literally it means like a person must fall. right? So literally, there are many words in the Arabic language, but if you look at the literal meaning, it seems like a bad dua. Like, you remember, saqilatka ummuk, etc. That may your mother find you heavy. But like I mentioned, that the literal meaning of this is not intended. It's expression of annoyance. Like we say, hey, what's up with this guy? He's like, acting so funny, acting so faulty. So something like that. We say, Malahu tariba jabinu. What is with this person? That is, may his forehead become soiled with sand. So it's not like a curse, condemning that person to hell, making a bad dua for him. That is not the way of Nabi Sallallahu. In fact, there's another nice riwayat. I think somebody was abusing as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala. You might have come across the riwayat. And Abu Bakr was silent. And then all of a sudden, Abu Bakr began repeating. So Nabi Sallallahu saw it. He said, Siddiqan wa la'anan. Can you be a Siddiq? Means a close friend of Allah Ta'ala, and la'anan, and you are cursing people at the same time. That was not possible. If you are a close friend of Allah Ta'ala, you won't be cursing people. So we see from this that it is not the prophetic way. So if somebody annoys you, somebody does. In fact, this will also be discussed in the next hadith. What I'm saying now, when somebody annoys you, they don't fulfill your rights, they abuse you. It says in the forthcoming riwayat, it mentions that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if it was with regards to his own rights, he'd be most tolerant, most forbearing. Yes, if it was regards to the Shariat, then he would be firm. So, if he personally, etc. So, this is the most he would say. Read the next riwayat, inshallah. Right, subhanallah. وعن ابي هريره نارتنا اثارت ابو هريره رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قيل يا رسول الله وسيد يا رسول الله ادعو على المشركين. It made dua against this mushrikeen. Seems like they don't want to accept Islam. They're hell-bound on continuing on their ways. So Nabi says, Inni lam ub'ath la'anan. Look, I haven't been sent as a person who curse. Even though these mushrikeen did not accept Islam, but they're still part of the Ummah Dawat. They are still part of the people who Nabi Sallallahu Dawat is channeled towards him. Inni lam ub'ath la'anan. I've not been sent as a person who cursed. وَإِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ رَحْمَةً. I've been sent as a mercy. Rawahu Muslimun. Imam Muslim narrates this particular riwayat. This makes me think about another riwayat where I think it was in the Battle of Uhud when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was injured, and then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made this dua. He said, Ya Allah, please forgive these people because they do not know. Because if the blood of a Nabi is spilled, if the blood of the Nabi falls on the ground, then the people who spill the blood, they will be severely punished. So forgive them because they know not. Right. So Nabi Sallam, instead of cursing them, whatever, Nabi Sallam made dua for them. Let's read the next hadith. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وعن عائشة مثلا. وعن ابي سعيد الخدري قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اشد حياء. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was more severe in modesty من الأذر في خدرها than a bride in her tent. You check the word al-azra'i. Huh? Pavilion.
Everyone must have a must get the book. Everyone must have there's a book here. Come waiting. I'm mark your stuff. Okay, Bula.
They say there's a problem with the connection. Just check if everything is right there. Is it clear now? Okay, they say it's clear. Okay, let's carry on. So what they're saying is, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Is yes, one is a person like a lady that has been exposed to the world. She has interacted, or maybe she's married already, so she's had interaction with the men, or maybe somebody that was had interaction with strange men, etc. She's used to talking to them. She's used to laughing them. So she's not so modest. But here it's referred to it refers to a lady. It could refer to also to a bride. Like I told you, normally the Arabs, they would have at their weddings, you'd have like a tent where the bride sit in there. So it refers to the lady sitting in there, or the young girl, the virgin girl sitting in there. So normally the unmarried girl is expected to be very, very modest. That is why, the Maslakam, you done it Muhammad Nazim in Kitabun Nikah, وضحكها وصمتها إذن, that if an unmarried girl, a virgin girl is asked, do you accept Lukman Lahe as your husband? You know, yes, yes, I want to get married. Yes, Daddy, I want to get married to him. I want to get married to him. It's not expected from her to say, yeah, today, nowadays, now they go to school, they have interaction with men, etc. So they'll maybe behave like that. But a person that they never have an interaction with a man, never go to school, never interact, they will feel too shy. Yes, yes, how to get married. They'll just laugh or they smile. That's why they laugh and they're laughing and the smile is considered to be permission. So here they refer to the, so Al-Azra refer to the girl that's in her tent. And I told you certain ulama translate it as the young bride, the virgin bride. So I was telling you, yeah. So the young virgin girl that hasn't been married before, as I told you, she's very modest, she's very bashful, etc. To such an extent, she won't even say, yes, I want to marry him, I want to marry him. You just smile. So yeah, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is, so in other words, this is darabul mithal, like a young girl is supposed to be like the paragon of modesty. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was similar to that. You didn't like speak like how we say, below the belt things, make jokes about below the belt, speak, what you say was the right word, inappropriate things, make inappropriate jokes, etc. And when he would feel shy or he'd be put on a spot, then he would also face would turn red as per the is there. So see now look at the hadith. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أشد حياء, that you would be more severe in modesty من الأذراء than the, they can take it, I told you. I remember our study in Madrasa translated as a bride. But here, what we checked out, that referred to the girl in the tent. And normally the bride sits in the tent, like Arabian team wedding. في خدرها, in her tent, right? وإذا رأى شيئا, when he would see something, there's a literal translation, but you can say here, experience something, يقرأها, that he would dislike it, it'd been appropriate, like I told you, below the belt type of things. عرفناه في وجهه, we could see this in his face. متفق عليه. In other words, we could see the signs of dislike, the sign of dislike of that in his face, right? Okay, read the next one. Right. Another nice riwayat here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So Nabi said from the previous riwayat, from this riwayat, and the one before that also, All these riwayat, if you put it together, you will see Nabi Sallallahu had a very controlled temperament. Like how how we say you don't let loose, like just go wild. Even you see whether it was his anger, whether it was the happiness, whether it was laughing. See, وعن عائشة narrated on the authority of Aisha Siddiqa رضي الله تعالى عنها قال ما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. I never saw Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم مستجمعا. You check this مستجمعا قط, laughing loudly. You checked it, istajma. What you got there? Laughing uncontrollably, so to say. Right. Right. مستجمعا قط ضاحكا حتى أرى منه لهواته, to such an extent that I would see his whole mouth, his teeth. وإنما كان يتبسم. He would smile coyly, right? رواه البخاري. Imam Bukhari narrates this particular riwayat. So mustajmi'an jama'a from and the istafa'ala scale. Istajma'a yastajmi'u mustajmi'un, right? Mustajmi'an, they say, yeah, mustajmi'an qattu dahikan means you will laugh in such a manner that his mouth will be open and his teeth will be showing. Teeth and his throat would be exposed. And yeah, interesting, they mentioned this different arrangement means people also like to keep this word tabassum, né? The Malay people like this word. Yeah, okay. That at the back, so yeah, you will, so you won't see the back of his throat. How you spell it? UV, right? Okay, see UV, right? Okay, we look at, let's put it all together now. First here, tabassum means the first category of laughing. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to always only make tabassum. I know some people like to keep this name here. This was the most common practice of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And tabassum is just like a smile. So to show his approval of something, to show his happiness, etc., he would smile. Are you with me? Then the next one is dhik. So first is tabassum, the next is dhik. Remember these words. These words also have a fiqhi connotation. Remember, if you make qahqaha in salat, right? But we'll discuss it there. But when we come, dhik is this, yeah, okay, that, yeah, where you can see this, it's such a broad smile where you can see the teeth on the side, the molars, so to say. And here it's mentioned also that this Nabi Sassam would rarely do this. He didn't do it all the time. Like if he was excessively pleased, then he would laugh to such an extent that you could see his molars, right? So that is tabassum. Then you got dih. Then you got qahqaha. Now remember qahqaha in a Hanafi madhab, if a person makes qahqaha in salah, he not only does the salah break, the wudu also breaks, right? And what is qahqaha? Qahqaha is with the person next to you hear you. Nah? That's in the fiqh terminology. In your fiqh, in Hanafi fiqh, if you laugh to such an extent that the person next to you can hear you laughing, then not only does your salah break, but your wudu also is nullified, right? So here in this context here, we don't mean that technical meaning, but we just mean like laughing heartily, where you lose control of yourself. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so here he's saying that in the hadith that ما رأيت نبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مستجمعا قط ضاحكا. This مستجمعا قط ضاحكا means Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never laughed uncontrollably. It refers to the third category. So remember, tabassum is just a smile, small smile. Dhihk is where maybe a small sound. You can see the molars. And qahqaha is a more heartily laugh where, yeah, this says it. Hatta ara minhu lahawatihi, the uvula is exposed, right? Yeah. So he's saying that this is understood from this, that hatta ara minhu lahawatihi. That shows that you only have to, you have to laugh very, how would you say, it should be like a very heartily laugh, or could maybe like the right word is very uncontrollable laugh before, you can see into the person's mouth, you can see the back of his throat. Anyway, reading the next hadith. So, okay, anyway, just before we move and we proceed from the hadith, so you also learn from this here that, like I told you, to be measured in everything you do, to be measured in your anger, to be measured in your laughter, to be measured in your happiness, etc. That's also from the sunnah of yourself completely, where you just let loose, etc. Anyway, read the next riwayat. All right. Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So there's another etiquette here mentioned with regards to the speak of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. وأنها يعني أن عائشة قالت, he says, إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that Nabi Sallam لم يكن يسرد الحديث. He would not speak fast and continuously, right? كسردكم, like your fast continuously speaking. كان يحدث حديثا. He would say a word. لو أعد العاد, if a person wants to count exactly what he's saying, لأحصاه, he was able to count it. متفق عليه, and this is a متفق عليه riwayat. So see, remember, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his whole purpose for which he was sent to this dunya was to convey the deen, to us to educate people. If he had to speak quickly, not in a measured tone, it would defeat the people purpose. His purpose was to convey a message. So the whole idea, so this you learn from this also, if you are a teacher, if you are a lecturer, etc., etc. The whole idea, the whole purpose is to educate people. If you're going to speak so fast that people can't hear what you're saying, etc., it defeats the purpose. So you speak in such a measured tone, to such an extent, if somebody wanted to count what you are saying, the words they could count. And it comes in another riwayat also. Also, I think I remember on the authority of Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said that Nabi Salsam would often repeat a word 3 times. So if he's mentioning something important or the punchline, the main thing, he would mention 3 times. So from this, you also learn, we do on Fridays, we do here about, our Anjuman, some of the, tips on public speaking, etc. So you can see from this, you see that that Nabi Sallallahu would speak slowly, pronounce the words clearly, important words, punchline, etc. You would repeat it 3 times. So these are some adab and etiquette of speaking in public speaking. So yasrudu sarada yasrudu, to speak quickly, continuously, right? Right. So if you want to count, you could even count it. Read the next hadith. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وعن الأسود قال سألت عائشة ما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصنع في ما كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصنع في بيته. قال كان يكون في مهنة أهله، تعني خدمة أهله، فإذا حضرت الصلاة خرج إلى الصلاة. رواه البخاري. Right in the authority of Aswad, he said that I asked Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala, what would Nabi Sallallahu do in his house? He said that he used to be in the service of his family. يعني مهنة service, مهنة means service, right? فإذا حضرت الصلاة, but when salat time would come, خرج إلى الصلاة, you'd hasten towards salah. رواه البخاري, Imam Bukhari narrates this particular right. So this seems like a very, very simple hadith, but it is loaded with meaning. Just change it. Okay. So this hadith here, a beautiful hadith, sounds so simple, but in certain cultures, it is considered below the dignity of a person to help with the chores at home. And sometimes maybe a person seeing, outside the house, he has a big job, he's a mufti, or he's a qari, or he's a big businessman, and he has so many servants at his back and call. He has so many students at his back and call, and people respect him, and they say, Mr. So and so, and so and so, and Mufti so and so, and Hazrat so and so, whatever. But here, what title can be greater than the title of Nabiullah? Subhanallah asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna. So nobody can have a greater title than Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody can have a position greater than the position of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But despite that, it's not considered below his dignity to engage. See, it says that مهنة في مهنة أهله يعني خدمة in the service. So the chores around the house. So it's not beyond anybody's position. It is not beyond anybody's title. It is not beyond anybody's wealth that he must engage in the simple menial tasks at home. That's the first thing. And the second thing, فإذا حضرت الصلاة وخرج إلى الصلاة, that when the right of Allah Ta'ala comes, when the call comes, like remember, this is similar to what we said, that when it came to his personal right, he was most forgiving, most forbearing. But when it came to the right of Shariat, when it came to the right of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, then he was most strict. You didn't compromise. Same thing here, that you can help the family, you can do for them, you can assist them. But when it comes to the right of Allah Ta'ala, when it comes to the call of the Shariat, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. Then there's no compromise. Then you put the right of Allah Ta'ala ahead. Okay, read the next one. Right, this is the riwayat I was making a reference to all the time, that we use as the basis for all. وعن عائشة narrated authority with Aisha Siddiqa رضي الله تعالى عنها said, قالت ما خير رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بين أمرين. Nabi Sata was never given a choice between two things, إلا أخذ أيسرهما, except that he would choose the easier. بشروا ولا تنفروا. Was it other? من شدد شدد عليه. Who wants to make it difficult for him, Allah Ta'ala will make it difficult upon him. So don't make things unnecessarily difficult for yourself. When Shariat has given a leeway, Shariat has given expense, then choose. See, إِلَّا أَخَذَ أَيْسَرَهُمَا, you choose the easier one. There's a proviso. Here's a caveat. مَا لَمْ يَكُنْ إِثْمًا, as long as it was not a sin, as long as it did not result in the disobedience. But in kana إِثْمًا, but if something was a sin, it resulted in the disobedience of Allah, كان أبعد الناس منه, you'll be the most distant from it, most furthest from it. ومن تقم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he would never seek revenge for himself, he would never avenge himself في شيء قط, in anything ever, except إلا أن ينتهك حرمة الله, except that the sanctity of Allah Ta'ala was desecrated. So just in simple words, what this means is that if, with regards to his own rights, you'd be most tolerant, you'd be most forbearing, you'd overlook. But when it was the rights of Allah, then there was no compromise. Like how you see, you'd help the family, help them in the house. But when the right of Allah Ta'ala came, it was you must go to the masjid, then there's no compromise. So yes, you can accommodate the family, you can accommodate the wife, you can accommodate the children, you can accommodate the husband, whatever is permissible, right? Be soft, be easy. But when it comes to the right of Allah Ta'ala, إِلَّا أَن يُنْتَهَكَ حُرْمَةُ اللَّهِ فَيَنْتَقِمُ لِلَّهِ بِهَا. Then, let's read the sense that he would take revenge for Allah Ta'ala in lieu of that. But what it means here, you wouldn't compromise the rights of Allah Ta'ala. You always establish the rights of Allah Ta'ala. There was no compromise with regards to that. We read the next hadith and we switch over, inshallah. وما لي من شيء قد Right. وأنها also narrated by authorities as Aisha Siddiqa ما ضرب رسول الله شيئا بيده. Nabi Sallam never smacked anything. He never hit anybody with his hand. ولا امرأة, and neither any woman. So this shows you he never beat his wives, right? ولا خادما, and no servant. Only that إلا أن يجاهد في سبيل الله, except when he was waging jihad in the path of Allah Ta'ala. Then obviously there you have to fight the enemies of Allah Ta'ala. You have to establish the law of Allah Ta'ala on the land. وَمَا نِيلَ مِنْهُ شَيْءٌ قَطُّ فَيَنْتَقِمُ مِنْ صَاحِبِهِ. Nila nala yanalu. This is what you say loud? No. Nala means to obtain, right? It's a nala nil to hada. No, nila to obtain. So nothing was taken. You can say in this context here, ma nila means nothing was taken from him. It was nothing was taken from his personal self. فَيَنْتَقِمُ مِنْ صَاحِبِهِ. Then he took revenge for him. In other words, so this is now the literal translation of you. So nala means to obtain, nila means to obtain. So obtain from him. So you can take obtain from him, nothing was taken from him. Right? That's what it means. And the understood translation, nothing uh, was snatched away from him. Or you can say none of his rights were taken away from him. فَيَنْتَقِمُ مِنْ صَاحِبِهِ. Then he would take revenge from that person. So in other words, if anybody wronged him in his personal capacity, he wouldn't worry about avenging his personal rights. You understood that? I hope you got it. Nala, or to obtain, nila, to be obtained from. So nila means taken from. So you can say, وَمَا أُخِذَ مِنْهُ شَيْءٌ. Nothing was taken from him. That was, taken from his personal rights, maybe his property or his honor or whatever, right? Then as a result of that, so the Nafi carries on through. So nothing was taken from him. Then he takes his revenge. No, wasn't like that. Yes, إِلَّا أَن يُنْتَهَكَ شَيْءٌ, except that something was desecrated min maharimillah, from the prohibition of Allah Ta'ala. فَيَنْتَقِمُ اللَّهُ, then he would take revenge for Allah Ta'ala. That's the literal translation. But in other words, here, what it means, he would establish the right of Allah Ta'ala. In other words, if this was haram, then you wouldn't allow it to pass. You would set it right. Although the literal translation means yantaqimu. Rawahu Muslimun, Imam Muslim narrates this particular right. So same thing what I mentioned to you previously, that as far as his own personal self was, his personal zat, there he wouldn't worry. But if there was any compromise with regards to the Shariah, any compromise with regards to the Kitabullah and the Sunnah of Rasul, then they would be most strict in enforcing that, right? There was no compromise. So we stop there now. We'll continue the tafsir. We already started the Arabic.